All right, welcome to our finalists for Photo of the Year. These are the top 10 and another excruciating decision and voting and discussion to try to figure out which ones were going to be here. There are some really, really good photos that are not in the top 10, and it's very, very hard. We're trying to look at editing and composition and cropping and just so many different factors and impact and all that. So these are our top 10, and I think we'll get started on our this was just, by the way, none of these are in order. These are the order that they were submitted. So this is the one from our lightning one where I was like, maybe this is a upward lightning strike, as well as, like, it's really hard to tell with this one here. This looks like downward and there's upward, but this is just such a rare, unique photo that obviously was going to make our top 10. So this is incredible.
Yeah, truly spectacular. Just what's literally going on in the photo. Also, just the scene, the colors, so many really magical things. The depth, I mean, looking all around the base of the volcano, the green, I appreciate a lot of the tones. You know, we do have a couple technical difficulties. There's some artifacting happening on the blue bolt there. But gosh, like, you're trying to harness all this power into a singular image, and I think you've done it. So congratulations again to this photographer.
Yeah, I do think that if you're looking like close, it actually looks really good and really sharp. I see like one little like hot pixel there, which is, and maybe a couple, there's one there. These are little things that, oh my gosh, whenever I'm editing a photo and it's lightning and it's at night, I will zoom in and just slowly go through. There's a blue one there. Like, these are little things that they don't really show up on a normal, like, you know, Instagram or whatever. You're not going to see it, but if you print it or whatever, those are just little tiny details at the end you want to get rid of. But this is just incredible. All right, we'll go on to this one. Dennis, what do you I know this is probably just right in your heart of love of chasing supercells in the plains.
A time lapse of this scene would be great. So yeah, maybe this year.
Yeah.
We'll see. Yeah. In my opinion, yeah, as you said, it's just the perfect plains view we all want to see if we are going out there to chase. So yeah. But overall, it's very sharp from front to back. So maybe what I see is that the wide angle lens is a bit unsharp at the edges. So, but that's not the photographer's fault. That's the lens, and we all know this stuff. If we shoot ultra wide angle lenses, so it's kind of hard to get everything sharp in the corners and at the edges. So but I like the editing style because it's not, the foreground is very dark, not too dark. So, but it's, in my opinion, it's good balanced with the sky, and I appreciate to not bring the foreground too bright up. So, and it's all is well balanced together. So it's a bit grainy here and there in the cloud. I think somewhere I spotted a dust spot or so. Just to make sure next time to check, zoom into the shot and check everything. Be picky. I would say so, but yeah, we all do this and oversee something, so it happens. So, but if you dropping your shot into a contest, be sure it's going out the best way you can get. So, but overall, I love this one. So it's a very, very, very nice scene. So well done.
I like the word you use, balanced. It's very balanced to me. The trees are like one on each side, and the tones, and it's not over edited. It's really, really nice. So, all right, we'll go on to this one, which we did talk about this one in our selections. So we have kind of already shared. I think if we were looking at any like critique about it, I really have a hard time because this is really nice. I would say the little maybe left edge here just a little bit bright. Maybe that was I mean, that's just the way it was, so it's really tough to deal with that. A little bit maybe blown out, but it looks like it's just really bright from the sun. But otherwise everything is just soft and lovely, and I think there's a little bit of a vignette that adds to like the focus of, you know, bringing my eyes in and the moodiness, and I really like this one. I know, Jennifer, you really like this one too.
Oh yeah, I'm like, he's going to ask me to talk about it. I'm going to be like, I still am obsessed with this photo. But I think there's good balance here too. And I really appreciate this photographer's approach to the post-processing, which I might have already said. Just the treatment of the foreground, I think, is really lovely. And it is sort of like the rule of thirds here. Part of me wanted to, like, I wonder what it would look like if they panned, the camera was a little lower, they panned down just a little bit and gave more foreground. But you know, you're mentioning that vignette, and I think you're right, it does help to draw the eye down, and it does actually sort of break this into thirds. We have that foreground in the third, we have the monster supercell munching in the middle, and then, you know, we have that framing element on the top. So yeah, overall I'm a big fan here. It's really beautiful.
All right, and we did talk about this one too. This one is just classic. I think Jennifer, you said fine art, and it really has that kind of look and appeal to it.
Yeah, in the editing, it really lends itself to that type of a feeling, and I think a lot of that is because the depth is so intense, and part of that's the light, part of that is the editing. And you know, if you think about you're at the museum and you're looking at a fine art landscape, and it's a painting, like this feels, it has that painterly feeling. There's a story in there, and of course we love that house. It looks like a castle. It almost gives it a feeling like we're in Transylvania or something. So lots of fun things, and if an image makes you wonder, make up stories or ask questions, those are successful things inside that image. So I love it.
Yeah, and I think it's really interesting to point out, you know, the light and how it turns this into almost like maybe like really powerful moonlight, because of how there's shadows and everything's lit up, but it's obviously nighttime, and the lightning is able to light it up because the lightning is like coming all the way from that storm all the way across the sky and probably off camera, maybe above our heads a little bit, and it just lights everything up like a big flash. Super cool. Dennis, what do you think of this one?
I love structure, you know. It's yeah. In my opinion, I like the mood. I like the mood so much, but for my personal taste, it's just a little bit too dark. Just a bit.
Yep.
Because I want to see a bit more of the structure and stuff. But I like the darkness too, but maybe just a bit brighter. It would be great. Just maybe half a stop or so max. So yeah. Yep. I can see some grainy. Is it grainy? Grainy noise?
A little grain,
grain and noise in there. Maybe the ISO was pumped up a bit, because nowadays you can get rid of it with.
Yeah.
There are so many great tools for getting rid of noise and stuff. Even in Lightroom, the current noise removal tool is very, very powerful. So
yeah, it's very good.
Yeah, compared to earlier versions, it's amazing. So yeah. There are some issues as well with the lightning bolt. It's a bit blurry here and there, but I'm just picking the very, very detailed stuff here right now. So, but overall, the scene composition, there's so much going on in the shot, but on the other hand, it's so clean and pure. So, yeah. Perfect position, the lightning bolt hitting through the inflow tail, and
well, and the lightning didn't blow out the inflow tail, which is also tough. A lot of times, based on your settings, that lightning pierces through a cloud, and it causes it to really get bright, and then usually it will blow out around there. So this feels so clean, and simple, and I love the angle. This is one of those ones that they always, this contest always inspires me to make sure I try different things, which is, when we're out there, sometimes the best angle is to be right in that notch where you get that whole mothership view, but then sometimes being a little south of it gives you this, and it's also just spectacular as well. And sometimes you get so stuck on being in one spot on every storm all the time that you kind of forget to just kind of go with the flow and try different things. So all right, so this one though is the same storm as the last one, but a different time, different photographer, and also very peaceful and serene. I was looking at the bolt. I thought maybe it was a little blown out, but I think just zooming in, it's just really, really bright, and you can see where it impacts going right through this cloud and out the bottom. Another lovely scene. Jennifer, what do you think of this one?
Yeah, I think it's so interesting having these two images back to back. Again, I love this compare contrast, two different photographers, two different voices. And it also speaks to how your settings in the field impact the final product that you put out in your edited image. If you're shooting more, you want to really control the bolt and the brightness, and you're looking for deeper mood, and you want to, and your style might be more underexposed. If you want to try to bring back some of the structural elements in the clouds, that's going to impact your quality. You're going to have more of the banding and the color artifacts and things in those clouds as you're trying to lift those details even if slightly. Whereas, if you leave your shutter speed open a little bit longer, or, depending on what the settings are, you're going to have a naturally easier time to convey the textures in the structure of the storm. So again, really strong representation of how those decisions in the field impact what your editing can look like on the back end. And also Dennis and Mike, Dennis specifically was mentioning, we've got all these nifty little tools too. So it does change the game for our post-processing, but I love the colors between the two images. Not that I'm trying to compare contrast, but we do talk about personal taste, and I love being able to see more detail about the storm. And I find the range of tonality to be more pleasing for me personally. But I think both have very strong impact in terms of the voice of the photographer, and it's still very important to stick to your style. Just know what those impacts will look like on your viewing audience.
Yeah, no, I agree with all of that. And one thing I will say, at least and it is like a personal thing, I think, we were talking about maybe this being grainy. I value, I think, like sharpness more than if it's a little grainy, because I do think you can print it big and there's a little grain. I think that's fine. Photos have had grain forever. And but if it's grainy and it's blurry and not in focus, that is, or to me, if it's perfectly no noise but out of focus, that is more of a negative, I think. To me, I'm okay with some noise, and I try not to get overly critical about that. And onto this one, Dennis, I know that you really, really liked this one. So I know we talked about it in our last video,
we talked about postcards and stuff earlier in this session, and postcards of Arizona. This could be a good example for a postcard of the Great Plains. So I think. I don't know. I like this shot very much because it's, in a way, it's unique. We don't often see such a setup of a barn, an old car, a windmill, a fence, just a farm scene, and a very good-looking supercell above it. So the whole composition is great, definitely, in my opinion. And I'm wondering a bit if it's a focus stick or not, because but I don't think so. I just was wondering. I think is far away enough from the fence. So but it's very sharp from maybe the trees are a bit blurry, but I don't think it's the lens, also maybe wind.
Yeah,
So yeah,
probably wind. And also you're
probably
probably
wind.
focused. They probably focused on the truck.
I do think
And
so. Yeah.
but it's not so bad. It's still one of
No.
those things that is like a bokeh issue where if you're, post photos of people and everything's blurry behind them, like
Yeah.
it's just one different way to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. But overall, the lighting on the scene is very, very difficult to handle it, because the very bright spot over the tail cloud there is
Yeah.
compared to the very dark foreground of the truck and the dark mesocyclone, the base of it, and so it's well balanced. So and yeah.
Sure.
Some blurry spot here and there. The windmill is a bit blurry too, but I think maybe it's a wind issue there. So and it's very difficult to get everything in line in these conditions. So and I appreciate an overall very well edited and beautiful scene.
No, I think it's one of those things like we talk about. This storm is epic and it's right there, and you only have like a minute to get the shot before it's either close to, depending on how fast, obviously if the storm is just hanging out there for an hour, I guess you have all the time in the world, but a lot of times they're moving, where to get this right, you got to be there and get it right in the moment. And hopefully you got it sharp and had your settings good. So kudos for sure. Speaking of other things that for some reason, maybe because, when you chase storms a lot and you lead tours, when the storms are kind of done for the night, you're really anxious to get back to the motels or the hotels so you can get some rest, because you got to drive the next day. So I don't always stay out for these sprites. And I think every year I see a photo like this and I'm like, why don't I try more? But because this is a, and I don't know any of the classifications and what people call it, but like insane jellyfish something sprite. There's so much going on here. There's so much detail just by looking at it from this view. It's just incredible. So this is a really great capture of sprites.
Yeah, it's definitely a bucket list type of shot, I think, for any storm enthusiast or storm chaser. Gosh, Skip Talbot and I tried plenty of times to get shots like this, and it just has to be the right, it's like serendipity. It's part serendipity and part commitment, because you don't get these all the time, and that's either luck or it's consistency and just staying out, pushing those late hours,
Yes.
cutting, not having dinner, eating, saltines out of the back of your car or whatever. So I think this image just communicates dedication. And also when you zoom in on those sprites, they're just, wow, the detail in the stars. It's just really magical and great capture.
Yeah.
Very congratulations to this photographer.
I would love to see this one on a big print, because I would say the details in the sprites are insane.
Yeah.
And if we are looking a bit on the stats for the camera settings, so it's a 1 second shot at ISO's 6400 f1.4.
Wow. 1.4.
Yeah, and it's crazy sharp.
Yeah,
for this one. So the editing is, with these settings, the editing is very good in my opinion.
Well, yeah, and when you're at 1.4, you can't, like, the foreground is pretty out of focus. When you're at 1.4, you can't get it in focus. You have to focus on the distance, which they did, and I love it. Like it's nice. It's what you had to do, and that's the secret to sprites, from what I've learned, even though I don't, is you got short shutter speeds from like 1 to 2 seconds, high ISO, wide open. You don't want any light to wash out. Once you capture a sprite, you don't want to have your shutter open for even longer to wash out with more light coming in. It'll wash out that sprite. So you have to have it shorter. So that's really interesting. That's even at 1 second, you said, or 1 point, whatever, because
one second.
Yeah. Cause I think I had heard like 2 to 3. So, when the shorter you have it, and then you capture it, then you're not going to wash it out with continued light coming in, which makes this one probably even better. Incredible, incredible. All right, here's just a classic plains supercell, lovely foreground, just great, like I don't know what to call it. It's like creamy, like peacefulness in that supercell when you know there's like giant hail in there probably, but the swirls of the clouds right in here, it's just lovely. This is a great photo.
Yeah, I love the way that this photo celebrates the textures in the plains. There are all these sculpted elements, and then it's shaggy underneath that updraft and that glowing core, and then the razor sharp grasses all leading the eye directly to the center. So a lot of really cool things happening here. I've got it on the other screen here, but like the grass is so razor sharp, I feel like it can cut right through my screen. Like the textures and the details there are just so well managed. Yeah, I appreciate this image in its texture very much, and the tones and the editing just very well done.
Yeah. The everybody who chased storms in the plains, even especially supercells, and early day supercells, I mean 4 p.m., 5 p.m. ish supercells. You know, it's so difficult with the very dark base, and you have the sun peeking through on the side, and even here it's the case on the left side. You see all these smaller cumulus clouds in the background. They're are hitting the sun is hitting the clouds, and nothing is blown out there too. So shutter speed was good. And the storm, it feels almost 3D.
Yeah,
because the texture is so well developed in this one. The post processing is very good. Yeah, I agree.
Yep, really good and very nice and simple. I like the foreground being kind of just kind of well balanced. It's really hard, I think, sometimes out there. You see a great field like this, and you get out there and shoot, and then later you realize it's like kind of dark on the side because you didn't because that's where the field ended, and you captured some of that, and so you can kind of get that idea that field just ends. But this makes it feel like the field goes on forever, which I think is really fitting for this.
It's a good comparison that just this simple foreground works too, in comparison to the other spot with the barn and the old car and stuff. Both works if you can make your composition balanced with the storm. So
yeah, good point. Very good point. All right, here we go with our last one. Just insane tornado underneath this bell-shaped supercell with all kinds of texture. I really love this photo. I love just the brown tones. We've got a lot of photos that are, maybe like got a lot of blues and kind of that, like purplish kind of, but the tones in this one are just kind of different, which I really like. And I can't tell if the only thing that I would have with this one maybe is the right side feels a little dark, but it probably was that way. But I would have maybe tried to bring it up a little bit. And I can't tell if it looks like the horizon is just a little off or if it was slanted, because it looks like it's slanted to the left, like maybe it's not level, but then the way the supercell is, it makes it look like it is level. So very interesting. Sometimes you're just out there and you've got a slanting, descending, foreground. There's nothing you can do about it. So I love all this wheat here, the motion in it, just a beautiful picture.
Yeah, so many different things for the eye to travel over. And interestingly, I think, and maybe it's the motion of the grasses and the structure and those shadow elements, the eye really just zeroes in on that tornado. Like there's nowhere else for my eye to go right off the bat. And then I'm taking a journey through the image. I kind of like the darkness on the right because it emphasizes the glow in that clear slot. I feel like I can really see how pronounced that bell shape is on the right side as well. So it's tough. These are the decisions you have to make when you're editing an image. Where do I want the eye to go? What is my focal point here. I appreciate the tones as well. That dusty brown in the plains, dirt in the air under your nails. It's it's a really beautiful image.
Well, and like Dennis said on the last one, you can see it's blue sky and bright out over here. So to the challenge to not blow out your highlights and also make sure that the shadows aren't super dark, with the fact that, with our new cameras these days, you don't need to do, multi-bracket kind of things like we used to want to do, because you couldn't get all that dynamic range in one shot. But I would much rather have a little bit of noise and just make sure you get it right in one shot by not blowing out the highlights. And so that can mean that the right side is a little dark. And I agree with you. I think it's dark, and I also think it works really, really well. So it's such a lovely shot. So those are our top 10. Congratulations to those who made it. The winners and the top 3 get announced next week. So good luck.